Hey guys, welcome to another one of my live streams. So nice to see all you guys here. Let's see. Hang on one second. Just hang on. I am so happy to see you all. We are actually nearing the end of Saving Destiny, which is the book I'll be reading from today. In the book, we're on in the readings online, we're in chapter 27, but in the book, we're actually on chapter 21 out of 25 chapters. So this is actually part of chapter 21. We last left Destiny when she had just been discharged from her hospital stay following her suicide attempt that got thwarted by the Jackson Center nurses going through her bag. Bonnie, Destiny's mom, kept having second thoughts about sending her back to the Jackson Center while Destiny was at the hospital this last time. But the hospital social worker talked her into giving the Jackson Center another chance. Where we will start reading right now is after the Rose Petal Festival ended. The Rose Petal Festival was a huge success. But as it died down, I started to feel the effects of the Jackson Center's treatment plan again. I wanted so badly to do well. People were so much nicer to me when I was doing well. But most nights, I ended up in restraints. The conviction that I could fly and that flying would turn my life around was so strong and convincing that night after night, I tried to climb out windows or run up fire escapes to set myself free. They were feelings that turned into a compulsion that I just couldn't shake off no matter how hard I tried. Some nights I heard a buzzing bug inside my head. To stop the buzzing, I would desperately bang my head as hard as possible against the wall because it made me feel disgusted, agitated, annoyed, and just plain drove me crazy. That is, if I hadn't already arrived at the destination that most people would consider crazy. Most nights ended up with me being held face down on the floor of the quiet room. I would be drenched in my own sweat, snot, tears, shame, and fear. Then the nurse would push a high dose of IV Haldol through my central line, and as my blood turned to sludge, I would cover myself up with the weighted blanket and fall asleep. At 10:30 p.m., it was shift change, and staff woke me up to walk me back to Sharon House and go to bed. In the middle of April, I was hospitalized again after being restrained multiple times in just one night. I think staff just got too tired to wrestle with me anymore, so they called crisis. I had lost my capacity to pretend I was okay and fake out crisis. For about a week, I stayed in the psychiatric hospital. Then, I spiked a fever of 105.5. The psych hospital had to immediately call 911, and the ambulance that rushed there, lights and sirens, called me in as a sepsis alert and brought me to the closest CR, where the blood culture showed that my triple lumen Hickman, my central line, had gone septic. In the ER, they immediately began rushing fluids and antibiotics through into me as they hooked me up to a heart monitor that kept alarming because my heart rate was in the 150s and my blood pressure was in the 80s over 40s. Those vital signs alarmed the doctors to the point where I was admitted to the ICU. During that hospital stay, they had to place a PICC line in my left arm and then remove the infected central line from my right chest. For 3 days, the high fevers persisted, and no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't get my vital signs to stabilize. They had me on medications and IV fluids to keep my blood pressure up, They had me on medications and fluids to keep my heart rate down. They had me on medications to stabilize my abnormal heart rhythms. The dizziness and sleepiness got so bad that I couldn't even get out of bed. The doctors were getting confused as to why the IV antibiotics weren't working. Finally, the blood cultures came back and they showed a fungal infection. I was placed on IV antifungals. After another 36 hours of clear blood cultures, they were finally able to put a brand new triple lumen Hickman in a different spot on my right chest. Once I had the new Hickman in, they removed the PICC line. When I returned to the Jackson Center, they didn't care that I had just come very close to dying. Instead, I was met with another mountain of consequence time. It was so stifling that I felt like I couldn't breathe. It once again gave me a feeling like I was crawling out of my skin. It was so in addition to that, a suicidal depression was beginning to settle in. I don't know what to do, I told Eliza. I can't take this. We're going to work through it, Eliza tried to assure me, like a broken record. But I was losing my faith. In the next few weeks, a new issue arose. I realized that my birthday was approaching in a few months. I was going to be 18. I was in no way ready to be 18 and an adult. I was terrified. Now we switch to the mother's perspective, Bonnie. As Destiny's 18th birthday approached, her anxiety level was the highest I had ever seen it. When I got a call from Eliza, I was on high alert. Hey, I'd like to have a meeting with just you and Alan this week, if you don't mind, she told me. Her tone was upbeat and cheerful, but it seemed slightly forced. Okay, I agreed. Alan and I drove down the following day. We arrived at the center and climbed the familiar narrow staircase to Eliza's office in silence. Eliza was waiting for us when we got to her door. Come in, nice to see you guys, she smiled, her gentle tooth grin. We sat in our usual spots on the love seat, Alan on the left and me on the right. I want to talk to you about treatment planning, Eliza explained to us. The way she so carefully phrased it, it sounded completely innocuous, and neither Alan nor I really understood what she was talking about. As you know, we only care for children through their high school years, and Destiny will be approaching her graduation in just 2 short months, Eliza began. Alan and I immediately understood what this meeting would be about. When I looked over at Alan, he had a sick look on his face. I couldn't imagine what my face looked like. I've had extensive discussions with Jeff and staff here about what would be best for Destiny. We're very worried that she will not be ready to go home in 2 months when she graduates from high school. She just hasn't been capable of keeping herself safe while she's been here. And we're so worried that if we send her home, she'll seriously harm herself, Eliza explained to us in her calm, steady tone. I tried to force myself to remember to breathe instead of just pant. But it was my understanding that she would return home after the treatment program. My voice shook as I spoke. That was the original goal we were aiming for, but it seems like we might need to adapt it, Eliza carefully explained to us. Do you think if we explain to her that she can't start keeping herself safe, then she can't come home? Would that be enough to change her behavior and start keeping her safe more consistently? Alan asked Eliza in a tone that was almost begging her. I don't think she can control it at this point, Eliza explained to Alan. Now, I had been voicing the same opinion to Eliza for months, but was strangely not very comforted that she finally agreed with me. "What do we do then?" asked Alan, his voice cracked. "There is a special program called the Transitional Age Youth Program. It's a residential treatment program for kids that are 17 to 25 years old and are transitioning out of programs meant for children. They've already agreed to take a teenager as medically fragile as Destiny. If you two are interested, I can arrange a tour for both of you, and you can decide if you want to put Destiny on the waiting list," Eliza told us. "Maybe we should talk to Destiny about this first," I suggested. "I feel like she deserves to know about this." "She may have a very volatile reaction," Eliza cautioned me. "I know," I sighed heavily, "but it feels wrong to go about this behind her back. Let's all meet together to discuss this." "If that's how you want to do it, then that's fine." Eliza turned to Alan. Alan agreed. "Do you know when I'm going home from the Jackson Center yet?" Destiny asked me during our next visit. "Oh, hi, Lisa." "Not yet. We have to work that out with the whole treatment planning team," I told her. I felt all my muscles tense inside. How was she going to react to another year or so in residential treatment? For a moment, I thought I was going to pass out. "Are you okay, Mom?" Destiny asked suddenly when I didn't speak for a moment. I forced myself to pull it together. "Yeah, sorry. I got a little dizzy," I quickly answered. 3 days later, Eliza had all of us together for a meeting in her office. "Hey guys, if you can send me a couple likes, I would sure like it. We're having this, I could tell by Destiny's expression that she knew something was up. Her fingers were rhythmically playing with the hem on the bottom of her hot sparkle pink t-shirt. "We're having this meeting because we're worried about you, Destiny." "Hi, Elaine," Eliza began. "We care a lot about you, and we're worried about your safety. In 2 months, you'll be graduating from the high school and this program, and we don't think you're ready to go home from here." I was watching Destiny's face. Her expression went from confusion to fear to horror, and then she just dissolved. "I need to go home from here. That was the deal." She started to cry. "I'm not going anywhere else. I'm not." "Destiny, your parents can't take you home and keep you safe in the state you're in. They just can't," Eliza explained to her. "Please, I'll be so good. I'll be so good. Please, take me home." Destiny turned to me with eyes full of desperation as she begged, and the pain I felt was so intense. "Honey, it's not about being good. It's about you being sick and needing treatment," I tried to explain to her. "But it wasn't supposed to be like this," Destiny sobbed. "I'm supposed to go home after this." I looked over at Alan in desperation, but he wasn't much help. He almost looked paralyzed with despair. "Destiny, we just want you to be healthy and safe, that's all," he reiterated. Destiny had gathered her knees up to her chest and was rocking back and forth in the chair now. "This is wrong. This is all wrong," she kept repeating to herself. In the 2 months leading up to her 18th birthday, Destiny was hospitalized twice more. Only this time, she was hospitalized on the adult unit in the hospital near the Jackson Center. When I found out that Destiny was on an adult unit, I felt a little sick inside. It wasn't just because I knew Destiny wouldn't know what to do with herself in an adult unit when she was developmentally only 8 years old. It was because it meant she was that much closer to what being in my mind because it meant she was that much closer to being what I viewed in my mind as a career mental patient. When she was on the adolescent units, we could always say she was just being a kid. She would outgrow it. But when she was on adult units, everything seemed more permanent. In the meantime, Destiny was placed on the waiting list for the Transitional Youth Program. Eliza scheduled a tour for Alan and me for 2 weeks before Destiny's birthday. Destiny clearly felt a sense of loss. The loss that one feels after they've been completely abandoned by everyone important in their life. Her behavior had disintegrated even further, which we hadn't thought possible. She was getting more restrained more often than not. She was unable to speak. When she tried to communicate her feelings, all she could do was cry hysterically. I was reminded of her behavior when she was 10, and everything had started to unravel. It was as though all the progress she had ever made had been erased. This is crazy, I kept telling Alan. There has to be some other option. We need to somehow think outside the box. We can't keep going like this. This is wrong. You're right, Alan told me, and I could see the gears churning inside his brain. There has to be some other way. We're going to figure this out. As Destiny's birthday approached, there was a shift in Alan and my attitudes. We were no longer complacently accepting Destiny's destiny. We were going to find the right solution. We were going to find the best way to save our daughter. While Eliza, Jeff, and the social worker from the Department of Mental Health continued to insist that the Transitional Youth Program was the only option for Destiny, Alan and I racked our brains to think of other options. Meanwhile, Alan and I continued to assure Destiny that we were on her side and that we would do whatever possible to help her out. On the day of the visit to the Transitional Youth Program, I printed out the directions and Alan drove. The house was another Victorian-style house, remarkably similar to the Jackson Center houses. The director showed us around and described the rules. The rules also seemed remarkably similar to the Jackson Center rules, complete with consequence time and everything. I was worried, very worried. It seemed like another place where Destiny would be set up to fail. I was worried that she would get consequence time once and never be able to work it off. I was also worried that she would be penalized for her mental health symptoms that she couldn't control. I didn't want her there. If Destiny went there, we would never get her out of the mental health system. She would just get bounced from program to program for the rest of her life. I shivered at the thought. We can't send her there, Alan told me immediately when we got in the car, before I even had a chance to open my mouth. I know, I agreed right away. We'll come up with another plan, but we can't send her there. We need to get her home somehow. Alan nodded. We both knew that we had a mountain of a task ahead of us, especially because getting Destiny home safely necessitated getting her through her 18th birthday safely, and she was terrified of turning 18. We've decided against the Transitional Youth Program, I told Eliza over the phone, several days and multiple long discussions later. What? Eliza was shocked. It felt weird to be going against her advice. But Destiny was our daughter, and we knew her best. We had finally realized that we needed to listen to our gut feelings and stand up for what was right for her. We don't think that spending another 12 to 18 months in a residential treatment program is what's best for Destiny, I explained. But she's nowhere near stable enough to go home at this point, Eliza pointed out. We understand that, I agreed. Alan and I have had numerous discussions about this, and we have some ideas. We were wondering if there was some way to push back Destiny's graduation from high school by having her do fewer high school credits per day for the next month. We could possibly buy her a few more months by doing that, Eliza agreed thoughtfully. You know, that really could work. If we bought her more time and more therapy, we might just be able to get her to the point where we could discharge her home instead of to another program. Our other idea, I continued, is dipping into our funds and using our own money to pay out of pocket for Destiny to stay at the Jackson Center for several more months past that. I know the school system stops paying their share as soon as she graduates from high school, so we would be willing to pick up the tab at that point, if necessary, I added. I will talk with Jeff about that as well, Eliza promised me. We will come up with a solution that works for everyone. And that is the end of chapter 27 of Saving Destiny. All right. What do you guys think of chapter 27? Love to hear your opinions. Thanks, Vivian. What do you think? The plan, the Jackson Center, Destiny, Destiny's parents, the plot change, her upcoming battle, any of it? What do you guys think? Any questions or comments? Yeah, Destiny's parents are really caring. Yeah, they finally realized that they had to start making their own decisions for her. The uncertainty and care is very hard, but now they have a plan now that they're gonna keep her with keep her at the Jackson Center. The plan now is that they're gonna keep her at the Jackson Center until she's ready to go, has enough therapy to go by extending her high school and then paying out of pocket. And then they finalize the plan in the next chapter. Any other questions, comments about me, anything myself, that Destiny Jackson Center, anything? Yeah, I'm so glad they figured out a way for her. And actually, this did happen to me when I was in residential treatment, and my parents did figure out that plan. I almost did get sent to another program. My parents saw the program and said no way and figured out another plan for me. Yeah, me too. My parents literally saved my life. I would have been institutionalized for the rest of my life had my parents not stepped in. Thanks, Elaine. Any other questions, comments? It's pretty much the same today. Everything's like the same today. It's just this wasn't that long ago. This all didn't happen that long ago. Happened fairly recently. And it's pretty much the same today. I'm not that old. This was fairly recently. Yeah, you can buy you can buy all the chapters of Saving Destiny on my site, chapters 1 through 25. It's broken up differently on my site than it is when I read it on YouTube. Um, on my site, it's broken up in chapters 1 through 25. They each have a name and a picture to go with them. Um, and um, I do hope my book changes that. Me too, Elaine. Thank you. You can buy chapters 1 through 29. They're each $2.99, but I have a rewards program where you can earn free chapters. So if you wanted to buy the whole book, it would be a lot cheaper than buying it once it comes out in regular copy, which it should soon. I've got it all edited. I'm just cutting out a few more words here and there. It's 99,000 words. I have to get it a little less words before I can send it into publishing companies. Uh, but because I've already published 2 books, it shouldn't take as long to get this one published. Um, but if you want to buy the whole book, you can off my website, www.chronicallyalive.org, and you can go to my store and buy all the chapters of the book off my website. All right, well, I think I'll end here. Thanks so much, guys. Love y'all.